Hello again, this is Mark Summers from Summers Technical Services. We're going to continue on with our assignment on the thread relief part, and we got the model created, and now we're going to move in and do a drawing. So let's get started. So here's my part model. Your part model is going to look different sizes. Everybody got a unique part to do, but it should look something like this. And so let's start a new drawing file. So we'll say File New, and we'll go get our templates. I got a B size and a D size, and I'm not sure which is going to be the best choice, so I'm going to pick one and then see what the views look like and then decide if that's a good choice or not. So first thing it does, it pops up and sends you into view layout for a model view, and I'm going to double click my part since I already have it open, showing up on the list. If it wasn't open, I could go browse and find it. So I'll double click on that and choose my front view, I think is what I want to start with, and hover over the screen over here and place it. And so I'll take a look at this and say, well, this looks kind of small, but let's see what view scale Solidworks decided to use. And so I'll come into a title block, and it says scale is 1 to 2, so I like to try to make my scales 1 to 1. So I'm not going to change the scale of the view. I'm going to leave it as use sheet scale, but I'm going to change the sheet scale from 1/2 to full scale. And I do that by right clicking on the sheet, going to properties, and then changing the scale to 1 to 1. Apply changes. Never check those boxes, that'll muck up your text size. And now I look and see that sheet scale is 1 to 1, and this looks like it's a reasonable sized view. So I want that side view, but I think I want a cross section so I can see inside and see what those internal threads are doing. So I want to go to back to view layout and go to section view. And the drawing pretty much creates itself. It asks me what kind of cutting line I want. It's defaulted to the one I want. I click to place the section view, and I just click to place the view. And it comes in and does all the cross hatching for me. It does the labeling for me. Puts the arrowheads over there. It does everything for me. So that's beautiful. All right. If I want to change the any of the parameters, I can come over here and change them. But it's using a parent scale, so everything looks good. If I want to change, no, we'll just leave that like it is. All right. So I'd like to take a look at this thread relief dimensions, but this view at 1 to 1. It's pretty small, and so maybe I want to do a detail view here. And so I come up here and find my detail view button, and I just read the command line over here, the pop-up dialog box, and just do what it says. Just select the center point of the circle, click to place the circle, and then click to place the view. Maybe I'll put the view down here somewhere. And so that seems reasonable, and it's chosen. Solidworks has decided I want a, what scale? 2 to 1 scale, so that seems reasonable. That's a pretty good size there where I can add the dimensions I want. And again, this is all parametric. It's got a letter there, and I can change the size of the circle, and you can see what happens in the detail view. If I drag this circle around, if I can grab it here, if I drag that around, spin it around. How do I drag the size? Here we go. You can see the size of the actual detail goes in and out. So maybe that's big enough right there. All right. So now I need to add my dimensions. Now notice I've got 2 callouts here. And the reason I've got 2 callouts, one of them is for the internal tap tool, and one of them is for the external tap tool. So this 2A must be the external tap tool. So I'm going to shift drag him over here. So hold down the shift button and drag him over to this view. And now he's over here in this view. And it somehow lost its way with the arrowhead. And so I'm just going to drag it and snap it back to that line. And there's the arrow back. So now I got these 2 callouts. Now these callouts are lousy because it doesn't follow my ANSI specification that we learned in class, and also it doesn't have all capital letters. So Solidworks does a pretty poor job on it's got the right hole call out, and these are parametric back to the model. But we need to fix those, and we'll do those in a little bit. So now I think I've got all the views I want. Maybe I want an ISO view, so maybe I need to drag this view over here and put me a nice ISO view up here, and I can do that later. You can do that on your own. So now I'm going to start annotating my views. And so I want to go to the Annotation tab. View Layout, this is where you make your views. And Annotation tab is where you do your annotations, your center lines, your notes, your dimensions, GD&T stuff, center lines, center marks, on and on. So let's put some center marks. Every single circle needs to have a center mark. And that takes care of that. I want to center line through the part here to make sure everybody understands that this is a cylindrical part here. And so center line, I want to center line halfway between these two lines. That looks nice. Or maybe it doesn't look nice. Maybe I need to drag this all the way over so it's clear that that whole part is a cylindrical feature. So that looks good. So now it's time to add dimensions, and I could come in here and go Smart Dimension and add all the dimensions that are required to make the drawing, but think about it. You've already done all the dimensions on the part model. Why would you waste your time putting them in again? And so we're not going to do that. What we're going to do is we're going to retrieve the dimensions from the model and put them in the drawing. And we do that with this button right here called Model Items. So I'm going to hit Model Items. We're going to do the entire model. I could do a selected feature if I just want to add a dimension for a particular feature, but I'm going to do the whole model. I want to put the dimensions in all the views. And for starters, it gives you this option here for the dimensions that are marked for the drawing, which are pretty much every model dimension. But since I've got a tapped hole here using the hole wizard, I can also request hole wizard, hole locations, and hole callout, and we'll do those later. For now, I'm just going to get the dimensions. Entire model, import items into all views, and for now, we'll just ask for the dimensions and say OK. And sure enough, there's all my model dimensions. And so now the game is to clean up the drawing a little bit. You can see I've got multiple duplicates, and so maybe I should have checked that place dimensions in all views, because now I got to figure out which one I want to keep. That looks good up there, so I'm going to delete this one. The 208 looks good over here. These look good over here. This one I want to have over here, I think, so I want to delete this one. And this one I've already got over here, so I want to, maybe I'll leave this one over here and delete this one, and just use this view to show details of right at that thread relief. And so here I can clean these up a little bit. This guy here I don't need. This is the diameter of that feature over here before I put the cosmetic threads on it. So just go in here and delete these dimensions you don't need. And when you're deleting these dimensions, you're not deleting them from the model. Even though they're model dimensions, you're not deleting the model dimensions. You're just deleting them from being displayed in the drawing. And let's see, I've got this chamfer over here. We're going to add that chamfer dimension like we did last time. I'm going to go Smart Dimension, Chamfer Dimension, and I'm going to read what it says up here. I'm going to select the chamfer. I'm going to select the reference edge, and boom, I get my chamfer, my nice chamfer dimension. Now you'll notice, remember these solid black dimensions, these are actually model dimensions. So if I hover over that clicking, D7 at sketch 1 of that part model, that is the model dimension. So if you double click this number and change it, it's changing the model. And so I recommend not doing that. This is just showing dimensions for making the drawing. And you'll notice this one down here is gray, and that indicates that this is not a model dimension. This is what I call a dumb dimension that I added in the drawing, and it's labeled as RD instead of D. R, I think, stands for reference dimension. But the difference is, I call it a dumb dimension because it's not driving the part model. It's being driven by the part model. And so if I go to the model and change that chamfer dimension, this will update correctly, just like these will update correctly. But this one is being driven by the model. and these are driving the model. And so I've got a duplicated 45 here. I've already got it down here. I'll delete that. And so now it's getting cleaned up here a little bit. This one I don't need over here. This one I don't need. And this call out here, it's not giving me all I need. It's not giving me all the tap hole, tap depth, and the tap drill depth, and the tap drill diameter. And so I don't like this note here. I want to add one that's going to be more appealing to me. And this one here I want to get rid of eventually because this doesn't have the right standard. Doesn't use the right standard. So the way to get the one I want is, and when you get this red light, green light here on sheet 1, it's just telling you that, hey, it thinks it needs to be regenerated to the model. And so you can just hit this red light, green light, rebuild button, and that'll make it happy. All right, so now let's go get that whole call out. So I'm going to go back to model items. I'm going to go not entire model, but selected feature. And I'm going to grab this whole call out option. Then I'm going to grab that feature. And there's my nice whole call out. So it's got the tap drill diameter. It's got the tap drill depth. It's got the tap call out, just like the ANSI spec tells us. And then it's got the tap depth. So I like that. So that looks good. And so I'm going to delete this guy that looks horrible. All right, now I'm on track here. Now I'm going to do things like maybe I want to add a dimension for this tap drill depth. And so it doesn't show up in this view. So I can still put in these, even though I call them dumb dimensions, they're still not a bad thing. So I can put a dumb dimension from here to here and place that down here somewhere. What am I doing? I'm not in the right button here. Smart dimension. I want to go, it says smart dimension, but I call it a dumb dimension. Here we go. And so now you can see that this number is this number and this number is this number. So it all matches up. Although I don't need these. These need to be reference dimensions because I've got the hard call out over here. So I want to select those and add parentheses around them. And that looks good. And I want to put parentheses around this guy and this guy and this guy because I want to use a note call out to specify that MO18 thread relief. So those dimensions and this one right here are all going to be reference dimensions. Because I won't need those, I want to call out that MO18 standard, and so these will be reference dimensions. Another few things. This dimension here is slightly confusing because it's really close to that minor diameter there, and that's confusing. So I can do things like right-click on this leader line, and I don't know where this thing is. Display options. Here we go. Display options, jog. And it puts a little jog in the dimension here. And so I can do things like this where I can drag this over here. Whoops. Got to look for that indication thing right there. I can drag him over here. Drag him down here. Now I've got a nice little jog here. And that helps me indicate that, yeah, I'm not dimensioning to this line, I'm dimensioning to that thread relief. And you're going to need to clean this up like we talked before. Drag this guy back, snap him to the edge there, so you get that little gap you're looking for. So make sure you clean up these dimensions. This one looks good. This one looks good. These over here need to be fixed because they're dragging too far in there. So drag those back, snap them to the corner, so you get those ANSI or ASME Y14.5M gaps there that's required to meet that drawing specification. All right, so maybe I've decided, maybe I've changed my mind. I think I might want this guy to really be over here because it belongs with this thread relief. So maybe I'll drag him back over here just for fun. And I'll need to do my jog thing again. All right, now what? So we took care of the note callouts. We took care, so let's do our thread callout. So we're gonna, or excuse me, a thread relief. So let's just add a note over here to specify this, oops, I don't need that, specify this thread relief. And so I can come over here and put a note. I can put a note right here using the note button. This is more annotation stuff. And if I click note and I just click on the screen somewhere, I'm just going to get a free floating text. But I want a leader line to go to it. And so I want to put a leader line. I want to select maybe right there and then click down here. And maybe say, let's just do a flag note. And we'll do flag note 5. And flag notes are notes that apply only to specific parts of the drawing. These notes up here, material and finish, these are general notes that apply to the whole drawing. Got a floater there. But this particular note here applies only to the thread relief. So I want to turn this into a flag note. And the way I do that is double click the text, highlight the text that I want to put a flag box around, and then come over here and say I want to make a border, not none, but I want to put, I can do a hexagonal border, I can do triangular border. Different companies use different things. In our class we'll use a square. And that looks good, except it's too close to the text, so I want to make it, instead of a tight fit square, I'll get a 2-character gap there and say OK. So now I've got a nice box around my note there, and since that's a flag note, I have to identify the flag note over here also with a box. And so I'll do the same kind of thing. I'll edit this, and I'll say thread, give me all caps here, thread relief per MO18 dash whatever your particular standard is. I think that's the format. So look on the standard, find out what your numbers need to be, and that will define that. And we need to go back and put a flag on this one because this only applies to that one flag note that I put on the drawing. So if we double click this guy, again, grab this text, come down here and add a square and do a 2-character spacing, and then we might need to line this text up a little bit better. So you get the idea. All right, so there we go. It takes care of the thread relief. Now let's talk about the material callouts. You're going to go get a specific material callout. We did this on assignment 3 already, but I gave you all that data. You're going to use the material that I gave you on that spreadsheet, and you're going to go find a material specification to put on here so that you get the exact material and exact finish you want. And so the rule we're going to use is we're going to use 3 different materials in the class. We're going to use aluminum alloys, we're going to use carbon steel alloys, and we're going to use stainless steel alloys. If you use aluminum, if I assign you aluminum, your finish is going to be anodized. That's a common finish for aluminum parts, is anodizing. If I give you a carbon steel part, hot rolled steel or cold rolled steel, something like that, you're going to use zinc plating as a finish. And if I give you a stainless steel part, you're going to use passivation like we used on assignment 3. So get your particular material alloy that I gave you, and under material you're going to do something like this. You're going to say, make something up here, 7075 T6 aluminum. That's the material that I gave you. And then you're going to say per, and then you're going to find a specification doing a Google search, something like AMS 123456, American Metallurgists Society, Metal Society, I'm not sure what it stands for. ASTM has a lot of material standards. ANSI has a lot of material specifications. What's some other ones? Lots of different material specifications. But look it up on Google. If you have a hard time finding the spec, I'll help you during class. But I want you to get a particular specification. And in this case, aluminum, we said, was anodized. So you might say sulfuric per mil GTL, I forget the number, 8541, type 2, class 2, black, something like that. But look these up and find one that looks reasonable, because I don't want us to turn into metallurgist, but I want you to be able to be familiar with these callouts. So find what looks like an official callout using these standards, and do something like that for your finishes. All right, you're going to fill out the title block as usual. You're going to fill out down here. You're going to come up with your own description, and so don't call it thread relief assignment 4, because that's not what this is. Come up with an idea what you think this assignment, what this function of this part is, and give it that nomenclature that we talked about in class. Otherwise, you'll lose 5 points. For the notes, I don't think they're going to fit down here, so for material, I'd say C note 3, and for the finish, I say C note 4. You don't want to put it both places, because if it ever changes and you forget to change one and not the other, then you're going to have a drawing that's not correct. All right, what else do we need to do? We need to add these radii. We're going to put those radii in there as reference dimensions. And I'm not sure why they didn't show up when I did my model items. They didn't show up, and so let's go try to do that again. Model items, I want to ask for a selected feature, and I want to ask for a dimension, and when I select these fillets here, it tells me no dimensions are inserted. It can't find them for some reason. And so let's go figure out what's going on. So if I go over to the model, here's my model. Let's go find those dimensions. I know they're here somewhere. Well, there they are. There's one of them, 040, and there's the 016. But the problem is they're displayed in the top view. Here's my top view. There's my 2 fillet dimensions. But I'm asking to show them in the right view. And you can't see them in the right view because they're on that plane going this way. And so in this case, I'm not going to be able to display, I'm not going to be able to do model items and show those. And I can show you why I know that now, because if I put another view in here, and say I project this view down here, now this is the top view that those dimensions, those 2 fillets show up on. And I don't want to do a view like this because it's going to make my drawing too tall and it won't fit. But if I come down here and do model items, whoops, that's not it. Annotation model items. If I ask for dimensions now, in this view, selected feature, it actually puts them in here. And so that's kind of a quirky thing with Solidworks. I can't get those dimensions in the other view, and I can't even shift drag. You would think I'd be able to shift drag these to these other views, but unfortunately it doesn't let me do that. And so we're going to have to just put some dumb dimensions in there because shift dragging doesn't work, unfortunately, because of that issue I just showed you on the model. So not to despair, we'll just get rid of this view here, and I'll just add them as a dumb dimension. And so I'll come in here and go smart dimension. I'll put one over here, and I'll put one over here. You're going to turn these into reference dimensions because they're not needed. Turn them into reference dimensions by selecting them and putting the parentheses around them. So, and go ahead and add the tolerances just like it shows. Make these dimensions for the thread relief. Use the same decimal places and the same tolerances that's showing up on the data sheet I gave you. On these other dimensions, I want you to think about as a designer, do these need to be plus or minus 5 thousandths, 3-place dimension? Or they can be 20 plus or minus 20 thousandths with a 2-place dimension, as specified here in the title block. So give the machinist as much leeway as you can for dimensions that don't really matter very much, like this one. This one's not critical because this is just going to thread into a tapped hole, and it's going to be however long it's going to be. And if that's off by 20 thousandths, that's not going to be a problem. But this one here, maybe this one is going to be the height of this thing sticking off the plate. I really care about that one, so I'm going to leave that one at 3 decimal places. And I want you to decide these other ones whether they need to be 2-place or 3-place dimensions. All right, so other than cleaning these dimensions up and maybe throwing an ISO view on here and doing your title block and your revision history and your notes at the top, maybe we've covered everything. We've covered enough stuff anyway. Last thing I'll show you is this note right here that I said at the beginning I didn't like. Let's go find out where that thing came from. And I'm going to go back to the model. And that's our cosmetic thread, right? And so if I go into here and go look at that cosmetic thread, edit feature, there's where that thread callout is right there. And you can see it won't let me change it because it's dimmed out here. It's being driven by Solidworks. And I don't like that callout because I don't like these lowercase letters here. So I want to make my own callout. And you have to kind of fake Solidworks out. What you have to do is change the ANSI inch standard, change it to none, and now this thread callout, you can get into this dialog box here. And I can type in what I want, which in my case is 1/4 no, not 1/4, what am I thinking about? 1 1/4 12 UNF 2A, right? That's the real callout per the ANSI standard. There's a major diameter, threads per inch, unified fine, class 2, A is for external. And if I say OK on that, save and close the model, Bummerooski. That must do a one-shot thing at the beginning. And so here's the game you need to play. Before you do anything with your drawing, go into the model and make that change. And I believe that at that point, when you make that first view, it'll pull it one time from that note in that cosmetic thread feature. Now let me try one thing. Maybe it'll make it work. Maybe if I go add it again. Model items. Let's ask for whole call out maybe. Is there some annotations down here? Tolerance dimensions. You'll want to play around there. Here we go. Annotations. Maybe it's one of these guys. So let's see if I can. No, it's not throwing that up. I don't think. No. All right. So I think that solution is to make that change in the model before you start the drawing. So make note of that. All right. So I've been rambling on long enough here. By the way, if you double middle mouse wheel, double click it, it'll zoom your drawing, zoom extents on your drawing. Okay. So like I said, maybe that's enough rambling for now. That should give you enough information to do a great job on your drawing here. If you have questions, let me know between classes. Otherwise, we'll discuss it during class. So that's all I've got for now. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe and hit the little notification bell so that as I get these new videos posted, you'll get notification. You'll know to go over there and get them. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.